Welcome everyone to this week's Brand Builder session. I am here with John Strohfus today. He is the founder of Field Theory. John and I have worked together for a long time now, and I'm so excited that you guys really get to know him and hear more about his story around farming and around his brand Field Theory. John, welcome to the show. So you and I have worked together for a while now, and I feel like I've come to know you and your brand and kind of your mission, but I want to give these guys a chance to get to know you. So I'm gonna give them the skinny on who Field Theory is, and then let's talk a little bit about your founder's story in particular and how you got into this, okay? So Field Theory, what we're looking at is a food company that is focused on regenerative agriculture, upcycled foods, and flagship products containing hemp. It was founded in 2016, and it's a wholly owned brand of Minnesota Hemp Farms. This is your farm.
Correct.
And Minnesota Hemp Farms is the largest US-based hemp foods company. That's a pretty big claim. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You're an agriculture food manufacturing company focused on providing innovative quality products with hemp ingredients, and you do this using a mature supply chain in your grower network with a focus on regenerative ag, organics, and upcycled food.
Correct. It's a mouthful, huh?
Well, it's a mouthful, and what strikes me is how many sort of big food issues and I think trends that you are really hitting on with your company. So, upcycled foods, you are at the forefront of this trend.
Upcycled foods, plant-based proteins,
Right.
Plant-based foods in general,
Yeah.
healthier foods.
Tell us about how you got your start. And so 2016 you were founded.
Correct.
Have you always been a farmer?
So I came from a very small farm background. We didn't do a lot of row crop farming. We had hay and forage production.
Okay.
We had horses and things like that. I spent about 20 years after college in the IT industry. So business consulting, IT consulting. And I also had a passion still for agriculture, but just didn't really know how to, be involved in agriculture as a very small entity.
Right.
And I just kind of went a different path. And then when my father passed, I bought back our farm from the estate, and we started doing things differently, and I started looking at ways that we could make our small farm do more things.
Right.
I've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the things I love about you. You have
Yeah.
a true entrepreneurial spirit.
I've always tried new things, and I had a great career going, but I wanted to do something that was more personal and more where I would have more personal satisfaction.
Yeah.
And so we tried to figure out ways that the farm could be more productive. And about that time, hemp came along where we could grow hemp legally in the state of Minnesota. And so 2016, I just said, I'm going to do that. And so
John, you were actually the first farmer to plant hemp when it became legal, right?
yes, back in 2016, Minnesota was allowed to grow hemp for the first time. And I just said I wanted to do this because I knew it was something new, unique, and different, certainly in the United States. And we just we went for it. And we created a Minnesota Hemp Farms Incorporated right at that time because we wanted to really focus and start building out that brand awareness right away in 2016. And the focus was on growing and then processing for bulk ingredients. But at the same time, we also recognized that we wanted a brand that would transcend Minnesota and that would be more meaningful and sustainable long term. And so we created the brand Field Theory at the same time. And so Minnesota Hemp Farms is our company entity, and Field Theory is our brand that we sell all of our consumer packaged good products.
Right. And so, did you know that you wanted to start a CPG business?
No, and if you asked me, if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I was going to be involved in the food industry, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah.
So it's really sort of surreal still to this day that we're manufacturing food products, we're involved in all the details and complications, frankly, that go along with food production and food safety and all those things of quality in that regard. Yeah. In addition to farming a crop that the United States has not had a lot of agriculture experience with, so that's been a challenge as well.
Right. And so I want to know what it's like, because I know this, you got a lot of things going on at once.
Yep.
And so you're doing farming, you're selling bulk ingredients.
Yep.
You are building and launching a CPG company.
Yep.
I think you might be doing a couple other things.
I'm trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And part of that is the brand. So the brand is evolving as well.
Right.
So the brand started with a very laser focus on hemp foods. And of course, there's many reasons that hemp ingredients are good and
Right.
hemp foods are good for you.
Tell us why. Why are they good?
It's a plant-based protein.
Yeah.
The second highest plant-based protein next to soybeans. But of course, we have allergen issues with
Right.
that. Pea protein is good, but hemp protein is more sustainable. It takes a lot more pea acres and raw pounds to make a pound of concentrated protein versus hemp.
We also get some other benefits from hemp too, right? It's not just a protein source, but it's a good fat source.
Correct.
Yeah.
Omega-3, 6, and 9s, fatty acids, good fats, not bad
Right.
fats. And so it's really just a well-rounded oilseed crop that most people have not really discovered yet.
Yeah.
So the focus was on hemp, and we kind of said, let's put hemp in the bag, and it's a good product and all that. And there's a lot of these products that have been out there in other brands for a while, and the story was just sort of falling a little bit flat. So I decided, let's put hemp as an ingredient into other products that people consume regularly or more regularly.
So that's really where this came from, right?
Yeah, so kind of two things were happening at the same time. One, we had this idea about moving hemp as an ingredient into more mainstream food products.
Yep.
And then also started learning more about food waste and specifically spent brewer's grain, which goes for waste product most of the time because it's hard to get into the livestock system where a lot of our other food waste goes. And so we worked with a local company that of course, Net Zero.
Net Zero.
And we developed a relationship with them. So we're using their proprietary technology to create a spent brewer's grain flour.
So they're actually processing, like from the breweries and distilleries, they're taking that grain and making it so it can be used again.
Correct,
Yeah.
which is salvaging all of the protein of the brewer's grain, but lowering the carbohydrate. So it has some
Because the
nutritional
carbohydrates are more taken out in that brewing process.
in the fermenting process
Yeah.
and the mash and so forth.
Right.
So we're basically salvaging what would be going to landfill in most cases, and we're upcycling it, which is a brand new trend, and
Yep.
Whole Foods is all over that.
Yep.
And so we feel really fortunate on the timing of all this.
Right.
So that we can use that as a great ingredient. And then we're also, because we have this grower network, we're able to source the wheat that we need in the pancake mix directly from farmers that are in our network. And hopefully they're growing regeneratively, so that's a focus that we want to instill in our grower network is regenerative agriculture. And then we're taking that wheat, we're milling the spent grain into wheat or spent grain flour, and then we're mixing it with all the other good stuff, including hemp.
So there's hemp in here too?
There's hemp in there as well.
Okay.
And it's really a one-of-a-kind product. Number one, because it's got spent brewer's grain or upcycled flour in it.
Yep.
And because it's got hemp in it. So there's no other product that is out there on the market like this. So we're very excited about it. And the best thing is, all the R&D was done in our kitchen.
And when you mean our kitchen, do you mean like you and your wife and your kids?
Mostly my kids, and that's
Okay.
the point. I have an 11-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son. And I make pancakes in the house.
Okay.
And they ate a lot of pancakes. And a lot of them did not taste good at the beginning. But they said, "Dad, this tastes good. We like this." And so as soon as they said that, I knew we were done.
Yeah.
And it tastes good. The kids are eating it even without syrup, and they like it. So I'm really pleased with the outcome of the quality and the taste and the nutritional benefits.
Well, that's the thing, is they're getting, instead of just like an overly processed, basically kind of sugar bomb that a lot of pancakes are, right? Like they're actually getting something that's truly nutritious for them.
Exactly. We just have to talk them into the natural syrup now. We're step at a time.
One step at a time. And so not only are these products good for you, but as for all the reasons that you stated, they're really good for the planet. With this focus on upcycled and this focus on regenerative agriculture, what impact, as a farmer, I mean, you see this directly, what impact does regenerative agriculture have?
Well, we're in a really unique time period right this moment in 2021 with commodity prices in general, and we have other crops that we farm in our farm operation, but generally farmers are really constrained. We're always really at the margins. So, if you can save 10 cents an acre, you
Right.
do it, and if hopefully you can sell it for 10 cents more. So anything that we can do to bring back good crop rotations gives us pest resistance
Yep.
and disease resistance in the crops that we grow, the more things that we rotate through instead of monocropping corn and soybeans.
Is that really what regenerative ag means? Is it about crop rotation, or is there more to it than that?
The definition is, I'll say loose. It's not really a yes or no or litmus test of what is regenerative,
Yeah.
but they're principles. So number one, crop rotation. So anything you can do to rotate crops, because different crops put things back into the soil and help the soil health, which is really one of the tenets of regenerative agriculture,
Yeah.
is soil health.
Which hemp is a fabulous plant for this, right?
Hemp is good, in a lot of different ways. It penetrates the soil a little bit deeper with the taproot. There's a lot of myths out there
Yeah.
about hemp can save the planet, and I don't proliferate those.
Okay.
But it's good to have crop rotation. And
Yeah.
so growing hemp is another tool that a farmer can have from a diverse crop and to figure out how that works in their rotation. And then the other practices are like reducing tillage, so trying to lessen the tillage and plant directly into living soil. And those are pretty innovative and bleeding edge techniques, and they come with a lot of risk to farmers because a lot of times those practices don't work in all areas. So we're trying to incent farmers to experiment with these things and to try to develop a system that is more regenerative. And when I say that, I mean they get the same yields and benefits out with less unnatural or artificial inputs in. And that's not just a ecological, save the planet kind of mindset. That's a commercial mindset too. So farmers care about their soil, they care about the planet and all those things, but they also need to be commercially viable.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because I think, Minnesota, we are an agricultural state, right? We are a farming
Sure.
state, but most of the systems, most of the benefits are not going to farmers who are doing things like you're doing. Is that true?
That's true. I mean, from a risk perspective, so there's
higher risk to do what you're doing.
There's higher risk to experiment, for example, with cover crops, with no-till, and those diverse crop rotations. Like, who wants to plant hemp for the first time when you've never done it? It's more risky than it is growing wheat or corn or soy.
And the risk is also, what are you going to do with it? Who are you going to sell it to, and making sure that you have a market? Whereas with maybe conventional corn or soy, like that's more steady.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So there's all these. The farmer always has a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And so when we say we want the farmer to be sustainable or regenerative or organic, even, that comes with more risk for the farmer.
Right.
And so what's the reward? And the reward, number one, obviously in organic, so you have a higher priced product because it's more difficult to produce. In many ways, regenerative is more difficult to produce. But the benefit to the farmer, hopefully, at the end of the day, outside of any incentives that brands could give or government programs could give to do farming in that manner, is the hope that you have reduced inputs that you need to buy, or that your inputs are, for example, cover crop seed instead of fertilizer.
Right.
And so, are we there yet? Is it a fine-tuned system? No.
No.
And everybody's farming operation is different, and people have to understand that what works in, St. Paul, Minnesota might not work in Nebraska or even, 20 miles away.
You've had some success on kind of the bulk side of this farming side, right? You've been able to build some success there. So how much of that is a piece of your business strategy and what you're doing?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like I've been on this journey and things just kind of slowly fall into place.
Yeah.
And that's really fun. Because a lot of times you have a conversation with someone or you meet someone, like we met a couple years ago,
right.
and here we are.
Right.
And you don't really understand how that connection is gonna be in your life go forward.
Right.
And then things just kind of connect. And so in the food industry, obviously, when we were selling hemp, we were approaching brands who were making products with hemp.
Right.
And so we got, we have developed great relationships with a lot of brands, and they trust us as an ingredient supplier.
Right.
So they've come back to us and they said, we know you farm also, so could you grow a certain crop for us? And one of the most fun crops that we grow outside of hemp is sunflowers.
Yeah.
And so, we started growing some sunflowers and, working with some brands, and now we have that as an ingredient also to offer. And so Field Theory has basically evolved now into really a comprehensive or more robust foods company.
Right.
So we have commodities, we have ingredients, and we have consumer packaged goods. So the journey isn't fully defined.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. We don't have everything figured out, but we have a really good blueprint, I think, for how to track in all these areas, and it's really fun because they're all interconnected.
I mean, this is what I love about you, and what I've seen you really demonstrate as you look at new areas to go into is you look for ways to, how do I pull all this together? How does this serve this, serve this, serve this, and how do I make this more of an enclosed kind of system, right?
Yeah.
Is that part of the strategy for you?
It is. So, for example, in a perfect scenario, we would grow wheat, and that would be sold to a maltster who sells it to a brewery, and then we, through Net Zero's help, we recapture that spent brewer's grain. So we have the first sale.
You're selling the wheat.
Yep. It's malted. It goes for beer.
Yep.
Then we get the spent grain back.
Right.
And we make it better. We upcycle it.
Right. And put it in something like this.
Yes. And so we have the first use and the second use. So it's really a life cycle.
Right.
That is the overall vision. And we can't achieve that in all cases.
Yeah.
But that's the goal. And so we want to make that happen.
Right.
And along with it, we're also working with farmers in our direct growing network, and we're trying to give the farmer some value add. So we're trying to get them out of, we have to go to the elevator and we have to sell at whatever the Chicago Board of Trade price is for corn.
Right.
Because there's very little opportunity for the farmer to work outside of timing the market. Where here we can say, why don't you look at growing a specialty crop or maybe a commodity crop like wheat, but for a brand. And we're going to connect consumers with transparency through our brand into the farmer. And that's exciting.
I'm really happy that you brought this up, because I think one of the things that you've done is you've really positioned yourself as a leader, as an advocate here, and as a support for other farmers on how do they maneuver this? How do they start to make some of these changes? Think about this differently, learn from you and some of the lessons that you've already worked through.
Yeah, I think, we're trying. I don't have the perfect solution for them for all things, but generally, it takes a team, right? So everybody has different personality traits and things that they're passionate about, and to be a farmer, you kind of have to do everything today. You have to be a great agronomist. You have to be a hard worker. You have to be, know how to grow things. I'll just say it that way. But then you also have to be an excellent business operator.
You have to be business savvy,
you have to
numbers,
understand finance.
Yep.
Lending is important. And then you also have to be a marketer.
Right.
And like most people, we're not good at everything.
Right.
And so on the marketing side is where we hear about farmers like us selling direct to a brand, But that's difficult, and it's difficult also for the brands, because there's a lot of complications working directly with a farmer.
Yeah.
Because you have multiple personalities then that you're dealing with also. So what we're trying to do is to have a supply chain that is more directly connected, I'll say it that way. So it's not full commodity, but it's not one-to-one either with a brand.
Yeah.
And so we're, in that case, an intermediary that can talk in farming talk to the farmer,
Yeah.
establish trust, and then also be able to convey confidence to a brand who cares about food safety and all the other hundreds of things that brands
have to go
ask
along with
for.
that.
Right, so we're trying to get more direct connected from the farmer to the brand, and then we're getting value out of that as well.
Where does this go? Where does this fit in as you're doing all these other things, really working on this farming side? What happens with Field Theory, the packaged brand?
That's a great question. So the plan with the brand is to continue to move these products into products that are similar but uniquely different. So, and when I say that, I'll point to the pancake mix, or we have a great product coming out next, the chocolate muffin mix.
Can't wait for that.
Which is also upcycled,
right,
and has hemp in it.
Okay.
And who doesn't like chocolate?
Right.
So that's sort of the spirit, is that, there's plenty of pancakes on the market today, there's plenty of muffins on the market today, but people like eating those things. They like eating chips, right? And you go to the supermarket and a grocery store or online, hundreds of types of chips, right? So we'd like to have a chip that has hemp in it, that has a better nutritional profile, more simple ingredients. And so
you could do an upcycled corn pretty easily.
The sky is really the limit.
Yeah.
And I think I don't want to put us into we talked a lot about should we be gluten-free?
Right.
Paleo only focus, or whatever. And I think that puts us in a box, because there's a lot of people that must be gluten-free.
Right.
There's a lot of people that are gluten intolerant and they want to buy mostly gluten-free products. But then there's a lot of people that
it's not an issue.
That it's not an issue for.
Yeah.
And in the case of the pancake, there was absolutely no way that we could use spent brewer's grain, which is made with gluten,
right,
and make a gluten-free pancake.
Right.
So, we kind of said, well, that's okay, because this is such a amazingly unique and different product,
that's
and
right,
we're making it better than another pancake on the market.
Well, and that's the thing, is your point of differentiation isn't being gluten-free. That's not what you're going for. You have these other things. You have this proposition where you're really good for us as a nutritional profile, and you're really good for the planet using this upcycle, right? That's really more the proposition of these products.
Exactly. It's the spirit of the brand.
So you're going to continue to innovate in these categories that might be a bit ubiquitous, right? Things that we are buying all the time, right, but in this way that brings that component to it.
Correct.
And who does John Strohfus become in this space? Because right now, I know you are in the trenches doing all of this, right? So you are in the early stage founders kind of piece. And you have the added challenge of all the farming side of it.
Right.
So who do you become as the businesses evolve?
Well, I think first and foremost is that I want to have some legacy that I leave to my family.
Yeah.
And so what is left to them, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I would like to have some business and opportunities for them to work within the company.
Yeah,
when
so
they
you
get
have
older.
kids. This is part of the legacy that you want to pass on to them.
Yeah, and I'm having a lot of fun right now, and we have, as you mentioned, many different swim lanes I'm working in. I really enjoy having my hands dirty and seeing and touching and feeling. But, directly, we need our network of farmers to work and to support the volume of what we're doing. And so, I'll probably always get my hands dirty a little bit, but the goal is to do probably less of that, more focusing on being a true CEO and building out the brand and the products and the employees that make our brand successful ultimately.
I think that's great. I think you have something really special, John, and I think we've talked about this a lot before, but your unique experience and skill set and passion holds together something that a lot of brand founders don't have. The fact that you're able to bring this farming side of it, the fact that you have this business experience and this consulting experience, you understand business, how to do business and how to communicate at that level, and what you've done in this space as a leader and an advocate is just really impressive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get lucky too. So.
There's a little bit of that.
Yeah,
There's always a little
lot
bit
of
of that in business. Yeah. So this was our session with Field Theory, and I was so happy to be able to talk with John Strohfus today. It was a great conversation around farming, regenerative agriculture, hemp, building a CPG business, and I'm happy that you guys were here to watch it. We'll see you next time.